Hi, my name is Hananya.
Hello there, my name is Shameem.
And my name is Leslie. We're three international friends on a mission to write and publish our first novels. We are the Three Writing Amigas.
Hey.
So we talked about this before I left for France, that time was going to change, and then your time was going to change, and then I completely forgot everything, and then got on. Where are my girls at?
You were probably really confused. And we were like,
First of all, I'm old and I'm jet lagged. So what are you going to do? But now I have a very hilarious 5-minute video of myself while I'm waiting for you guys. I told jokes to myself. I sang myself a song.
Love that.
Because you can't leave me alone, you know.
I need that footage.
We'll see. Oh, I don't like. Did you see Hananya's eyes? So I missed you guys. How you been?
Good. I'm not feeling 100% still, so my energy levels are low, but I'm really present and I'm here ready to interrogate you.
Crack on.
Oh my God, yes, because we've decided that, you know, we've had we've all been kind of talking about our books, you know, generally, and kind of getting it going. So if you're following us, Emily thought there are certain times when it probably makes sense to focus on one of our books for an episode, and then we'll go on. So I am the sacrificial lamb. And
you're the one that's all jet lagged and like really tired, and we're saying you go first. Then.
You go first.
I know, but that's okay. I'm here, and I just want to say that I don't know if I said it before, maybe I did, but anyway, so it's really, really great for me because I have officially finished all that coursework and am absolutely, thank you, officially starting to edit the book. So it's really good for me to kind of talk through this part of the cast and stuff, and have you guys, you know, talk to me, let's talk about it, because I think that will just add even more. And I even have what did I do with it? I had a notepad somewhere. In case there's any other gems that may pop out of here.
Right.
Because I have my plan, you know, in terms of all the notes that they've given me, my feedback to them, you know, like things I agreed with and didn't agree with, whatever. But this is really, I think will be really helpful for me too, to kind of talk through stuff.
Yeah. Do you know what I feel like?
Yeah.
I feel like you're going to get your edit done like sooner than I'm going to get my edit done.
Why do you say that?
Just because that's what I feel like. I feel like you're so dedicated and you have like so much time. But I mean, like more time than I have.
A
maybe
full-time job like you.
Well, and I think the difference is, we are writing one story. We've only got one on the go. You have like 10 million on the go.
Well, I don't do them all at the same time.
No, I know, but you spend massive amount of time on each, and you've just done the anthropology. So, you know, it's a very different scenario.
Yeah,
I know, but still.
And also, you know, I went to Mark Twain's I think it was his last home or something like that. It was in New England. This is a few years ago with my husband, and we were just taking like, you know, day trip, let's go around. And we went to Mark Twain's house, which was very cool. And it will be one of the places that we can all visit together, hopefully one day.
Yes, please.
And so you go into his office, right? And, you know, it's just cool to be, you know, in the environment. There's his desk and there's his things. But one of the things I noticed, and clearly Hananya can do this, I'm not at that place yet. And, you know, Shameem, this may or may not be something that will work for you. But like, okay, so he has his desk and stuff. And then over against this far wall was like, almost like you know, almost like kind of a lower bookshelf with like little cubbies, like maybe that wide and that high. And he would put in there, he worked on several things at once. So he would put like, these would be articles, and these might be, you know, novels, and maybe this row was like short stories. And he would have all kinds of stuff. So he'd walk into his office and say, what shall I work on today? Or in fact,
Or
I guess
just
if
pull
it's an
that out.
article, yeah, and pull it out. And so like that, each little cubby would be like, the research, the writing, the, whatever, because of course back then typewriter. And then he'd work on it and for however long and maybe put it back and maybe work on something else in the afternoon. But he just had like all this stuff going at once. And I don't feel I have the brain capacity.
That's what I organize in Scrivener. Like that's how I do it. Yeah. So each project, I would say, it's like its own Scrivener file, unless it's just an idea shelf, then it's in one document. But yeah, that's what I have. So I have like my historical project, and then I have what I call online Project Sky, which is a different project that I did during Nano last year. And that one, like I have as well. So I just have both of them in a Scrivener document, and then I have several other Scrivener documents for other projects. And that includes like everything. So that is just, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Scrivener, but I really like it just because
I do like it. I found it like daunting to try to get going with it for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little bit of a learning curve, but it's good in a way of like, it helps you structure. So I have my Scrivener file structured in chapters. You can also do it in scenes, but I like it in chapters. I don't know why. It's just how I like my stuff and makes more sense in my head. And then you can have like a research bucket, like a folder where you just drop everything in there. And then you have like characters and you drop everything into characters folder. Like you can have folders in your like binder, basically. Whereas like, I guess in older days, you'd have like a binder full of all of your stuff. You can have that in Scrivener in like one document. So that's what I like about it personally. But
I do the same with Dabble. So
with Dabble,
what?
Yeah, Dabble, which is similar. Because when I was doing the research, the reviews I was reading were saying that Scrivener was more complicated than Dabble. So I went to Dabble because I just thought I need easy for my first go. So yeah, but I've segmented mine in exactly the same way. I got a research section, my characters, ideas, and then I copy my notes over just so it's all in one place.
Yeah,
but I wanted to say that I'm leaning heavily towards printing my draft that I finished.
Yes. You got that once. I mean, right? You gotta feel it and everything. I think I lifted mine up for you guys. I now have my light on it at the moment. But just one point I want to make. I live in the olden days. Like Hananya's like, in the olden days how you'd have the folders and stuff. So that's where I live.
But I mean, I like that. It's just more like,
No, I
trying to save the environment here.
You are not wrong. You are not wrong. You are not wrong.
Trying to not cut trees by the million.
Right? No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I have Scrivener. Okay, so I don't know about Dabble. So I got Scrivener, and I think I'm a reasonably intelligent person. Maybe.
Yeah. You're good on Philomora, and I'm not. So
well, it's practice. I don't know. Somehow the whole like with the I don't know. There was something about it that I found just. This is the thing. I learn better by seeing than reading descriptions. I think I said that before. Like even with Philmore or whatever. Like if I can self-teach myself by trial and error, and I have memories of sitting behind editors for so long, kind of like what the timeline should look like and all those things, I can muddle my way through and slowly add to that. Like when I have a specific thing, read, how do I do that thing, and add it in. With Scrivener, if I had someone to walk me through, sit next to me, whatever, and go, I would probably pick it up. I just have a really hard time when it's just like from scratch or from cold or whatever, reading directions and applying that.
I like kind of having a template that I can fill in.
Yeah.
Kind of play with and kind of see how people use it. Yeah.
But you're not wrong about all the paper and stuff. And it makes a mess. And my studio is always a mess. And maybe I should go back and try it because I have like the next, I haven't even finished this one, but the next one I want to write, I imagine it is a 3-part story, 3 books. And that, but you've got to sketch out, all 3, right? Because they really have to arc over the entire series. So that's a lot more work. And I think that probably something like Scrivener would probably really help. So we all have to find our what works for us.
Spot,
for us. So
Anyway, let's talk
yeah.
about your characters.
See, I was trying to like, kind of get us off the track there. No, just kidding. Yes, let's talk about, okay, so, all right. So
Talks about Letty.
Yes, so talked about Letty. Letty's my main character. She's like 14 years old. She's going to be 15. So she's coming up, it's sort of, because it's in the Great Depression of the United States, rural town. So she's coming up against some real life-changing times, because back then, especially girls, you didn't go on to high school and college and all of that. So she's
So this was the 1930s.
Early
said.
1930s, 32 to 33. Yeah, I didn't ground it in it's sort of 32, 33 is where I placed it. And that comes into play in terms of the kinds of cars there are, whether they have refrigeration, the attitudes of people, what's going on in terms of race and power, as well as economics, because it's the Great Depression. So all of those elements kind of come into play in the story. And Letty is at a crossroads in her life where there's society that's going to expect certain things because she's about the age that you finish school. Her mother, who's the antagonist, I have learned, as we have discussed, has her ideas about what she wants Letty's life should be, or she thinks she should be. Letty has very different ideas, on that. And, so that's kind of where the book begins, is there's this, she's at a crossroads, and she has this one idea and her mother has other ideas. And then Letty's world is populated by some people who are allies and some who are other forms of antagonists, secondary and tertiary antagonists. So
who are the allies that are going to work with Letty to like get to her goal and get to what like she wants to do, essentially? So we're going to be like her cheerleaders and support.
Yeah, so she's got a couple of major allies. So her main ally is Stan, her best friend. He's kind of sweet on Letty a little bit, but he's got his own challenges because, these are Black folks on the other side of the tracks, literally. And, his home life is pretty rocky. His father, Stan's mother, I won't say what happened, but isn't in the picture. So Stan's dad, who's still, sometimes looking for a woman, and when he finds one, Stan's out. So is Stan
the same age as Letty?
Yes, they're the same age. He's just a couple of months older. So they've been in school together, but Stan is a sometimes student and a sometimes homeless kid.
Okay. And just so I know, is the expectation for boys back then as well that they would leave school to go and get a paying job to help sustain the family as well?
Yes and no. There's sometimes the opportunity for the boys to go longer in school, but because these are Black folks in a rural setting, kids need to start working as soon as they can, right? Yeah. Because there's just the economics of it, right? And also for the economics of the school, they just really don't teach past, a certain grade. So he may have the opportunity to go one more year than Letty, but economics are probably going to come into play there, and stop that. But he has his challenge is that because of his rocky home life, it's hard for him to stay in school. His larger motivation is to be friends with Letty, who's kind of, the one person he can trust and rely on. And it's the same for her. He's her confidant. He's her cheerleader. But there will come a time, because this is a story about secrets, where secrets will divide them.
Okay.
And
intriguing.
Yes, I hope so. And change their lives. Okay. Both of them. So that's Stan. And Stan is a funny guy too, because Stan is, he's a guy, so he still like has his pride and stuff, so there are moments where Stan is just ridiculous. Because he tries to, put himself out there to be what he's not. And Letty, of course, suffers no fools, has a big mouth, cannot keep her opinions to herself. And, so there are those moments, but he really is there for her until there is some betrayal.
So there's no romance.
I'm not telling you that.
Okay, that's good.
Ooh.
What? Yeah.
I'm thinking like all them hormones raging.
They are of that age. They are of that age, definitely. So she has a good support that way. On the other hand,
That's good.
There's Mama, who has her ideas about what Letty's life should be. And then you've got Mabel May, who is the bully at school.
Right.
And Mabel, also having kind of her own arc, is a kid who, if Stan is poor and sometimes homeless, Mabel May is dirt poor. She's just dirt poor.
Okay.
And, has really had a hard go of it and lives with her grandmother, and is jealous of, look, she's a kid, and she sees other kids having more and, doing more. And, and especially the Roses, they tend to be they're the ones that people love to pick on because they live where they live, top of a hill, and just sort of a nicer scenario. Some of that of their own doing, some of it not of their own doing, but nonetheless, and so Mabel kind of channels her anger towards the Rose kids, which, pardon me, Letty, of course, being the oldest, is taxed with defending, which is why Letty gets kicked out of school all the time. So, what's interesting for me about Mabel May is she is, through her, we get to learn, some of the things that people had to endure during those times. Simply for, like, she has asthma, which at that time, this is where a little research came in. At that time, asthma was considered an affliction of the poor.
No.
Oh, okay.
I know, it's right. It was just considered that only poor people got it, and you were poor, and it was called hard luck asthma, or hard luck, something like that. And if you had it, it just was like a mark. It was like the scarlet A, and here she is, she's this tough girl, she's angry at the world, and she channels her anger towards the Rose kids, and she's got this asthma, which at the same time, at least I'm hoping, that's where her humanity comes in, right? Because she's got this affliction, and also because of that particular affliction, it gives her a label, right? But so she's the secondary antagonist, and she will antagonize. She will throw the wrenches, but through her, Letty will be able to learn and eventually unlock some of the secrets that have been holding Letty's family together.
Okay.
They will come directly and they will come indirectly, but through that conduit, and so she becomes, as a secondary antagonist, she's very crucial to Letty being able to ultimately find out all the truths, which of course the truths are what may set Letty free, but set the town on fire. And those are so that's Letty's immediate world. Those are
okay.
Yeah.
On what side does that leave her, like, siblings?
Right. Okay. Thank you for asking me that. So then there's people who are not those main. Those are like the main.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And then there's other people in the cast. So Letty's got two sisters and two brothers, and through them, really, they're around. They're around all the time, and dinner things, and they're there, and they ask sometimes the questions that Letty wishes they wouldn't ask.
Like poke the bear.
Oh yeah, they poke the bear, and so they do a lot of that, and then also sometimes through them we get to Letty's humanity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because how she thinks about them, or how she treats them despite other things that may be, going on, or how she might protect them. So that's kind of their role. So they are there, and also, as siblings and things like that. But mostly they're there to either just, push her to the edge or tell the secret. But then, like I said, also allow her to, kind of her humanity to come through that. And then there's some adult ancillary characters too that are just, some of them are just like characters in the neighborhood, and then some of them will play roles where they don't really have, you see them, just a couple of times, really where they have a place, but they are ones that either give warnings about the greater society, or they give information that's needed but as appropriate. But they also just fill out like what this world is, what this neighborhood really is, through them.
It's very layered, isn't it, your story?
Yes, I mean, I hope so.
Like an onion, like an onion.
Like an onion, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I hope that all the secrets and things kind of peel, and I'm hoping there's the twists and the turns and the surprises are there. And that's, we talk about that on another episode, and we probably should, about like, how do you seed things without giving away, but because the worst thing, you read a book or watch a movie and all of a sudden something happens, like, well, how did that happen? So also trying to remember to seed little things through different people, that later on, when the reveal comes, you're like, oh, that's what that meant.
But also not having it be like when you're halfway through the book and you're like, oh, this is gonna happen.
Right.
Sometimes it's like, oh, well, this is probably gonna happen and it's fun. But other times it's like, if you want to find out who did it, or like, it's like, I don't want to know by like halfway through the book. Like, I want to find out towards the end where I'm like, oh, everything clicks. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, it's this person, isn't it? And then be right.
Sometimes the best stories are when you know who the evil person is right at the beginning, and
but then that's like
doesn't know, and then you're like, he's evil.
Right. Well, see, and that's why I hope a little bit that with the mama, like I already told you, she's the big antagonist. But why? See, that's one of the things you have to read the book. So and seeding those things and hoping. So that's kind of the world of my book.
I like it.
Thank you. I hope.
I mean, can't wait to read it.
Me too. Right. So I just want to say, next steps for me, is so I already had the first draft. The notes are all done. Been to the course. The biggest note. I mean, there's lots of little things to expand here and discuss that, blah, blah, blah. But the biggest note was moving the inciting incident up earlier, which of course, anytime you move, it's a dominoes, right? It's first it was the puzzle. So the puzzle is solved. Now it's the domino effect to get that inciting incident earlier. And then once you do that, which of the scenes you've had to pull away do you still keep? Because it changes kind of that whole feeling. Like it's never simple. So that's another discussion for another day after we, I think we go through that, because then we're all editing, which is awesome too. So then we're all in editing, so we can start talking about that. But that would be a discussion for another day. But that's what I'm starting to do now, is to look at those opening chapters, figuring out where that inciting incident should come, and then I'll have to deal with the ramifications of that, which may require.
I definitely think on that basis, you should upload all of it into Scrivener, because when you're moving around chapters and reordering some of the storylines, I think it's way easier to do using the writing app than it is.
Well, what about yours? What do you use? Easier? I wouldn't use easier.
Dabble. I'm just trying to make sure you don't like spend any more money, really.
Yeah.
I did the same. I changed the order of a lot of things.
You did. And it was easier.
It was easier to do it in Dabble and switch around and see whether it still flowed okay, or whether I had to make some changes. Right. It seemed easier to visualize, read it, like understand it in Dabble than it did when it was sitting in Word.
Yeah. Okay. That's a really good point.
I couldn't see it. Yeah.
So that is sort of, those are my main, that's all my cast.
So just recap on that for me. How many main characters have you got in total?
Okay. So
you have a whole sheet. Nice.
Well, I have to, because as I was writing, actually goes a little bit on the other page. Oh, and then I even have like, okay, so some of these bet down here are little bits, but then I even put like vegetables and plants, farm, the town, nearby environment. Like, this is
so organized.
Yeah.
Well, I have to, because as I was going through and writing, these things would come up. Like some of it was, I was putting my cat, like I said, my cats, did they have refrigeration? And so then, that would, go here. And so my cast, so what I, basically what I have this sheet, which was just helpful for me early on, because as I was also learning, not with the main characters, because you're writing there and, all the scenes, but as I was filling out the world, to be able to go and say like, wait, who in the Hopkins market again? You forget, right?
Yes.
Because you're getting into your narrative. So this sort of represents, like, that's why I have like up here is like my main character, Letty Jo, 14 going on 15. She's the oldest, a little bit description of what she looks like. Then I got her siblings, because that was important, early on, Mama and Papa, and then Stan and Mabel May. So that constitutes that first one. You can see that a little bit there. And then everybody else are really ancillary characters, but they have a role. There's nobody here that doesn't somehow at some point have a role. Now, some people may only really have a role once, but they can be in the background, other times. But everything here, there's a reason that person has a name.
Yeah.
Right? And so it just helped me to keep them straight. You know what I mean? So I just kept this running tab, and also with just the most important thing about them, in case I wanted to keep bringing that back in, if that made sense to their character somehow.
Scrivener is so going to help you out with that.
Really?
Yeah. I just think the same in Dabble. I've got it all laid out. Yeah. The reason I wanted to ask you about how the numbers of characters, the cast, is because I think early on in not my opening chapter, but certainly the second or the third, I got a scene where, there's a bunch of people in the kitchen. And some of the feedback I had was there's too many characters, because there's a lot
confusing to understand who's who. And
yeah. So I've started choosing books to read now that have a lot of characters, just so that I can kind of just make sure I can work it out, because not all mine are, they're not all main characters. That a lot of them are just, peripheral. I'm calling them, they're just on the edges. Don't have a story arc, but are still part of the story.
They affect the story somehow. Yeah. Well, I would say is like, I've got here one, of the main characters, the ones that really drive the narrative, it's just Letty, Stan, Mabel, Mama, and not even, Papa, but he's even kind of down here a little bit. So, but everybody else, and then you have the next group where they show up a lot and they are important, but they're not really driving the narrative, and that would be Papa and Granny. And everybody else comes at certain points, but they come more than once so that you know who they are, right? But really, that's it. It's really the story of those like 4 or 5 people, and then this is their world. So maybe that's where, and there are a couple of scenes where they're big group scenes. There's only, I think, 2 scenes where it's really like group, but even then it's like, you know, hey, here comes so-and-so, but you've seen them before. So I don't think it's confusing in that way, because you're clear, like sort of who you need to be paying attention to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think.
That makes sense.
Is your kitchen chapter like in the beginning of your book? Like
No.
very,
No,
very
it's
early on?
it's in the first third. So
Well, that could be
Okay,
part
but
of
it's
it,
not
maybe.
like the first chapter or anything.
no.
So that
No.
means like if I already know kind of a little bit the characters before we get to that kitchen scene, I'd be
Yeah.
okay with that. Like even if I don't
Yeah.
remember everyone,
Right.
Yeah.
I'd still
Yeah.
be like, oh yeah, I've seen these people before. I kind of know who they were.
Yeah. No,
And
that
it
that
might
makes
also
sense.
be, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying I was writing some notes for myself as you were describing your characters, just to make sure that I check the story arcs. Basically, I think I've missed some out. So
Yeah, see, because it also could be, yeah, it's easier to do once you get going. There's just too many people. But also could be when you look at your kitchen scene, you know, focusing on, I don't know how many people are really important in that scene. So let's say it's 3 people that's really important, but you've got 4 more that are there because we know them and da-da-da.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, they can also be like, there's this one thing where there's a birthday party and she says, oh, here come the so-and-so twins. So we know they're there, but they don't do anything.
Yeah, that's
right?
a good
But
point.
keeping the world full,
Yeah.
right? And acknowledging, because we know from a previous scene what she thinks about those people and what it, you know, could mean, but they don't have a role. So it's also how you're, if you're giving everyone an equal, you know, role in the scene, that might be what your confusion is. You know. But that's also one of the things, you know, once we lay out everybody's worlds, talking about scene structure and all that, we'll continue to get into all of that, because that's really going to help us all as we edit too. Right, so that we're really making sure that our scenes have a beginning, a middle, a purpose, and a beginning and a middle and an end that build then to the next, you know, thing.
Next chapters.
Yeah, exactly. So
what does that mean for your goal for the upcoming week?
But what I want to do now is really prepare myself for editing. So that would be to get a sense of Scrivener, to write my to-do. What do I, you know, what is the things I want to tackle first? These structural things need to happen before anything else, because it doesn't make sense to put lipstick on the pig, as we say here in the States, you know. So that's number one, is to sit down and really look at the structure wherever that needs to change, be confident in that. And then I think I can move forward with actually the rewrite. So that's my goal.
Okay.
I got to tell you, I'm still jet lagged, so I'm going to dive into a cup of coffee today.
Bathe in it.
I'm going to bathe in the coffee.
Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Be sure to follow Hananya at Hananya LeClaire on Instagram and YouTube. Follow Shameem on Instagram at rnpinkhamauthor. And Leslie on Instagram at ld.feral.writer. Or catch all of us on YouTube at 3 Writing Amigas. Until our next hangout, keep on writing.